Welcome to Highly Sensitive, Happily Married, the podcast that teaches you to not only have an easier marriage as a sensitive woman, but to have one that feels more amazing by the day. Where you'll hear relatable stories, love advice that works, and coaching on how to have a marriage where feeling upset and disconnected is a thing of the past, and where instead a sense of loving connection and even fun and lightness is the norm. I'm Hannah Brooks, highly sensitive person, love expert, and marriage coach, and I'm so happy to be on this journey with you. Hello and welcome to episode 22. I'm once again ever so happy to be here with you today, and we are diving into the third part of the three-part series. the theme flaw site to love site, or to put that in English, from like going from seeing your partner as someone who's like a bozo, right? Or someone who's really not a great partner, to seeing him as someone you feel so lucky to be with, right? Seeing him as an amazing partner who you just love. Now, obviously, we don't get there in a blink of an eye, and the last couple episodes have been helping you kind of walk your way along this path, right? And so today, we're going to take some of that, what I might call kind of behind the scenes work, the things that you've been doing more in your own mind that I've suggested you do, right? The ways of seeing and thinking about your partner that help you feel so much more warmth and compassion and affection towards him, right? And today we're going to take that and put it into actual action, like action in the outer world, so that you can get some real results and actually start to see some positive changes really happening in your interactions with your man. So what I'm going to share today is what I make sure to do. It's part of what I do on the regular in my marriage. And the result of doing these things that I'm going to share is that I feel truly blessed to be married to my hubby, right? And he feels loved and cherished and truly blessed to be married to me, right? He shows up with so much love for me, and because he feels so loved, right? That's part of that. And we really just have this loving, like reciprocally loving marriage. And I owe so much of that to what I'm sharing with you today. Of course, this was not always how I operated. I had to learn these things that you may also need to learn a little. As we've talked about it, what I'm going to share today doesn't necessarily come naturally, nor does all the things I've shared in the last couple podcasts, right? And one of the things that I see a lot, and I did all the time in my first marriage, was a very ineffective strategy to make my partner do and be more of the things that I wanted and I loved, right? Like, I think a lot of us, we really want our partner to do things in a way that makes us feel loved, or do things that help us, right? That just, we want them to do things that help us have a much healthier, happier relationship and a smoother running home and all of that, right? And yet what happens is, so often we go about it in a way that doesn't really work so well. And it's not your fault at all. So once again, I want you to remove any self-blame if that comes up. Like, it's not about blaming you. Like, the truth is you just like me back in the day, I had never learned another way. And so I just let whatever seemed natural to me happen. And as you know, as we've been talking about, so often the natural thing is kind of the default. By letting the default setting of the brain, the more negative way of doing and seeing things, take over, it leads to not actually getting what we want. Like, it oftentimes leads to the opposite of what we want. So, for me and for so many of my clients and the women that I talk to, what we end up by accident, unintentionally doing, is kind of condemning our partner for doing things wrong, right? Like pointing out the way he's doing things wrong, the way he's falling short, where he's not doing things right. And I think it's fascinating that this is our go-to strategy. And of course, it makes sense based on how our human brain works. But what happens is when we're focusing on, right, and when we're seeing all the ways in which he's not doing things quote unquote right, or how we'd like him to, we tend to react with impatience, right, or judgment or anger, or give him the cold shoulder, or just be super withdrawn, like as if like in punishment, like punishing him for that thing, right? But obviously, solving what's wrong by focusing on it and reacting to it in all of these ways just doesn't work well, right? Most of the time. And so I have one caveat, which sometimes doing these things can actually shame our partner into actually doing those things for us, right? Or scare him into doing it. Like if we like are always telling him, you are so bad at doing the dishes, you never do the dishes. I don't know. I always use the dishes as an example. I don't know why. But right, if we're doing that kind of thing, like why can't you just do them? Right? You're such a kid or whatever, right? That might shame him into actually doing the dishes, right? But that's not gonna motivate it. He's not motivating him to do it from a place of love and genuine kindness and genuine desire to love on you and support you and help you, right? When we're shaming him or scaring him into doing something, he's going to be doing it more out of duty, right? Or to avoid being scolded. Now, that is more like a mom-child relationship, right? Or it's just not the kind of relationship that we want our marriages to be based on. We want to be doing things for each other because we love each other, because we want to contribute, because we love being there and supporting each other, right? We don't want marriage to be about duty or avoiding being scolded, right? When that's the case, like it blocks the free flow of love and safety and respect and genuine connection, right? And it certainly doesn't lead to romance. And it's really because in a situation like that, both of you, and when I say you, I also mean me and my ex-husband way back in the day, right? Both of us are dealing with sort of out of integrity feelings. So back in my first marriage, I was doing that a lot. Like I was fixating on the ways my husband wasn't living up to what I wanted him to be doing, right? How he was not talking when I wanted him to, how he was late to get home, how he was this and that and this and that. And aside from just being upset with him about that a lot of the time, I was pretty constantly frustrated and mad at myself for not being who I wanted to be, right? It was kind of like showing up that way myself with criticism and condemnation and sort of blaming him a lot and telling him and pointing out where he was doing things wrong. That felt kind of like emotionally toxic inside of me, right? That it fueled a sense of my own deficiency as a person, right? As a partner. And so that really kept me from my own heart and from feeling open and able to experience the love and connection I wanted, right? When I was feeling about my own self, my heart was kind of caged in, and it made it way harder to feel love and connection for him too. That makes sense? So that's what I mean by sort of out of integrity with myself. I wasn't being who I wanted to be, right? And often as well, like my ex-husband picked up that sense of like that he should be different, because that's what he was kind of hearing from me all the time, right? That he can't do anything right. I hear this all the time from clients. Their partner tells them that he feels like he can't do anything right by them, right? So when he's feeling that, when he's hearing that, then he also gets that sense of insufficiency or deficiency. He feels deficient as a partner. And that locks him out of his heart too. So if any of this is sounding familiar, I recorded an amazing episode with my friend and colleague, Casey. I think it's episode 7, I believe. So go check that out. It's a powerful one. But my point here is obviously like this approach of kind of focusing on flaws and pointing them out. It really only takes us further from the genuine appreciation and sense of loving, respect, and cherishing of each other that we want to have in our marriages, right? And I know I've said this sort of thing a lot, but right now I really want to point out how the speaking to it, like when you're criticizing or telling him how he's doing things wrong, it really is going to be backfiring. Right. And luckily, there truly is a better way, a way that actually works and actually leads to what I call a positive snowball effect, right? A vicarious, is that the right word? Not vicarious, virtuous cycle, right? In our relationship. And it's a way of being, a way of interacting that will feel in integrity, right? It will feel good to you. You'll feel good about yourself when you do it. And it's very likely, which is so fun, to actually get your hubby, your partner, doing more of the things you'd like him to be doing. And being more of the person you'd like him to be, like being more affectionate with you, or doing more chores around the house, or even like eating healthier, right? So it's really this approach that I'm about to lay out for you is the exact opposite approach of many of us take of the old tactic that I just kind of laid out for you. And when you use this approach, it will actually counter and actually help heal any harsher approaches you may have taken in the past. You may have, of course, unintentionally taken that actually ended up hurting the relationship and your partner. And even yourself too, right? So it's going to be it's going to have a really healing effect. So instead of condemning what you don't like, this is the approach in a nutshell. Instead of condemning and pointing out what you don't like, reflect and reinforce what you do like. Reflect and reinforce his goodness, what he's doing well. Right. That's why I had you kind of for the last couple of weeks really focus on things that you like about him or accept about him. Right. And seeing him as a real human, seeing all his goodness. Right. We want to get that into our awareness first before we actually put it in words. But that's the next step, is to catch him being good. Right. That's another way to think of this. And then appreciate him for that out loud. Right? Notice and appreciate what you do like that he's doing and how you do like that he's being, right? How he is getting it right. And then say those things, appreciate him for those things out loud, right? With your voice. This is truly magical, and very few of us do this enough. So why would we do this? Well, there's science behind this. Studies show that in healthy, loving marriages, negative interactions are offset by positive interactions. And I've heard different things. I've heard like you need 20 positive interactions to offset negative interactions, right? To keep that relationship yummy and healthy and juicy and wonderful, right? I've also heard the 5-to-1 rule. So you can just decide which one you want to go with. I say, why not shoot for 20 positive interactions? Because you get to reap the reward, right? But at minimum, you want to have 5 to any less than positive interaction, right? 5 positives to 1 less than positive. So this appreciating and having positive interactions sets you up for the best relationship possible, right? It's like the basic standard that we want to shoot for, right? So it's like the groundwork for a positive relationship. Okay, so that's just the basics, right? And most of us aren't reaching that. So Nelson Mandela said, and this is just a beautiful quote, "It never hurts to think too highly of a person. Often they become ennobled and act better because of it." And that's my next point, right? Not only does this, help your relationship just reach this really solid standard of healthiness, right? But we also are way likely to do more of the things that our partner likes when they acknowledge and appreciate it, right? So it's a motivating force to appreciate your partner for the things that he is doing well. It will motivate him. It will teach him what you like. And deep down, despite what you may be seeing lately, your partner does want to please you. He wants to be seen as good by you. He loves you and he wants you to admire him, right? Of course he does. Of course. So when you beam out genuine appreciation and, trust in his goodness and his ability to do things well, and trust in even his ability to grow, what happens is we start to encourage more of it in him, right? We boost him up. We motivate him to do more of that, to be more of that, to be more of those good qualities that we see in him, right? And we build him up instead of tearing him down, right? Don't you want that from your partner, right? I know you want that from him. So go first, right? Be willing to do that for him first. Now, I want to be really clear. We don't appreciate the things we love that he's doing in order to manipulate him, right? And we don't do it just for him, right? I know it's going to benefit him, like I just said, but we're not doing it just for him. In fact, appreciating him in this way and vocalizing your appreciations is actually rather selfish. But it does benefit him positively too. So it's a win-win. So why is it selfish? Well, because it feels good to you to appreciate, right? This is the main reason we do this, right? We want to be the best versions of ourselves. That's deep down one of the most important things to us as highly sensitive people. We want to be our best selves. We are so conscientious. We want to live up to our own standards for how to interact and love and care for the people in our lives, right? So more important than how he acts, our partner acts towards us, is always how we act towards them, how we feel about our own behaviors. We want to feel good about our own behaviors. And that's all we can control. And it's what we have to live with forever, right? The one relationship that's the most important is the one you're always going to have no matter what you do, which is the one with yourself, right? So you want to appreciate him because it's who you are deep down. It's who you want to be, someone who's caring and appreciative, right? And of course, it feels really good to appreciate. It feels good to feel the feeling of appreciation. Think about it. Like, call to mind for just a moment a time when you were upset at your partner. I think that's probably not too hard for many of us. And just notice how that feels. How does it feel to be upset at him? How does your body feel? And if you want to, you can pause this podcast to really notice that. And now I want you to do the opposite. I want you to call to mind a time when you really appreciated something he did or a way that he was. Really take the time to connect to that, how it felt when you were appreciating him. Really notice how that feels to feel appreciation for your partner. Notice how your body feels. And once you've really done that and connected to those two different feelings, what it's like to feel upset, what it's like to feel appreciation, notice which one you'd prefer to feel more of, which one you'd rather feel, and which one you want to feel more often. I know most of us would prefer to feel the feelings of appreciation because that just feels good to us. Right? So that's another reason this is actually selfish. It benefits us deeply to feel that appreciation. So I want to add one other sort of side note, important side note, which is that we are not doing appreciating in a let's just fake it way, right? We're not here to fake appreciation. When you are looking for things to appreciate in your partner, you're actually going to be looking for what you can genuinely, truly, honestly appreciate, right? Things that you may have missed because your brain loves to tilt your attention to what's wrong, right? So what we're doing here is helping to bring your awareness, your attention back to what he's actually doing well, like what he really is doing well, and what you can find when you focus on it that he is doing well, right? And feel genuine appreciation for that. And another side note is that I want to make sure you know that I'm not saying you should never point out things you don't like in your partner, or never point out areas he could improve, right? I'm actually a big fan of pointing out areas my husband could grow. But this is really important. There are ways and times that are more effective than others. Now, I've written about this recently on my blog. I will put the show notes a mention of that blog post so that you can know, like, are we at the right place in a relationship at this point for me to be a little more pushy? I think it's actually called When to Be Pushy. And there is a time and a place for that, but there needs to be a solid foundation of positivity and safety and trust in the relationship before that becomes more of a thing. And most of us many of us don't have that fully established yet. And this activity, what I'm sharing today, reflecting and reinforcing the good, is going to really help take the relationship to a place of much more safety and positivity so that it's much easier to start effectively and respectfully pointing out the ways he could grow and change. Got it? All right. So I'm going to just lay out how you can start to reflect and reinforce his goodness and bring more of it out. Okay. So there's a couple different ways that I want to go over today. The first one is to just generally uplevel your marriage and make it way more loving and fun, right? This is like just bringing more appreciation into your daily life. Just feeling like there's this culture, just growing this culture of love and appreciation in your marriage, right? And as you go first, as you start to lead this appreciation, like leading love, he's going to be much more likely to start doing the same after a while of you consistently doing this. I want to illustrate this with a story actually from a very dear friendship. It was really my first personal, conscious experience of how powerful appreciation is in a relationship. And again, this is with a dear friend who I met in college. She is incredibly loving, right? She was always thanking me for things. We were roommates, and she just was so appreciative all the time. Not like over the top ooey gooey, but just genuinely appreciative of this and that. And she just pointed out things in me that she appreciated and liked, and things that I did. And what happened is it made me want to do the same for her. Just naturally, it inspired me. And I started thanking her more and pointing out her positive qualities more. And soon enough, we had the most safe, appreciative, deep friendship that I've ever had, right? One of my best friends ever. Because we really cherished each other, and both of us knew it. Both of us expressed it. And in this case, she really led the way, and I learned so much from her. I am forever grateful. So that's kind of the first way to use appreciation more and to benefit both of you in your marriage, right? And the second sort of method, way to kind of reinforce and reflect the good is to gently and lovingly invite or kind of encourage more of what you actually want, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the first general approach. This is how you do it. And this is just good for everybody. So I recommend all of you do this. Start to get in the habit of scanning for what you appreciate in your partner in the day in and day out of life. Right? And, you can just ask yourself, what can I appreciate? What can I appreciate in what he's doing and how he's being? Right? It can be so small. It can be him making you coffee. Maybe every day he gets up and makes a couple cups of coffee, one for you, one for him, right? He's thinking of you. He's done that for you, right? That's something you can appreciate. Maybe it's the way he smells, right? Maybe it's his beautiful eyelashes. Maybe it's the kind way he interacts with the kids sometimes, even if it's not all the time, right? So what did you recently really enjoy about him or with him? Right? Nothing's too small. The conversation you had at dinner, I'm giving you some sort of more specific ideas, right? Like when he went on a walk with you the other day, right? Or how hard he works for the family, or just asking you about how your day went, or how he called for the electrician or the plumber, right? Or that he took some time out of his day to go, do that errand with you, right? These are all things that you can totally internally appreciate and then vocalize appreciation to him for, right? So get in the habit of watching for what you appreciate. It's really key to reinvigorating fondness and appreciative feelings in you and in him. And it will make it easier as you start to notice these things to actually speak them out loud, right? We talked about that at length, or we talked about that last time. So, and then the next question here is like, how do you want to express it to him, right? How might you let him know that you see these good things in him, that you appreciate him? How might you let him know that he's doing these things that you like? And I advise that you just find words that come naturally to you and that you don't hold back on saying them. In fact, it will probably take a little nudging for you to utter those words, but it's so worth it. The other way to use appreciation, again, is to really bring out more of what you want in him, right? Sort of get him, inspire him, encourage him to do more of the things you want and more of the qualities and characteristics you love about him, right? So let's think about those as two different categories. The first is like to bring out more of those characteristics and qualities you love. Like say you want him to be more playful, or you just want him to be more affectionate, or you want him to be more responsible. What you're going to be doing is look for the ways that he already is affectionate and tell him how much you like or appreciate how affectionate he is, right? Or how responsible he is, right? Whatever the quality is you want to encourage more of, look for it and find it in him. You will if you look, right? And then appreciate him for it. So say you're looking for him to be more affectionate, start to notice even the smallest ways. It could even be that cup of coffee, and then just say hey, you know what I love? I love how you bring me or you make me coffee every morning. It's such an affectionate gesture. Or it might be easier to think of something he used to do that showed affection, right? And you can say something like, you know what I always loved? When you used to sneak up behind me and surprise me with a hug. That felt so good, right? Can you see how that's reflecting, meaning like being like a mirror to the good qualities that you loved in him, that you want more of, and reinforcing them in him by speaking them, by telling him that he is those ways, right? And that's what I kind of like to say, be personal about it versus just thanking him for things he does. That's what I'm kind of sharing here, right? Reflect on those qualities that you love. And then to kind of get him to be to do more of the things that you want, like the specifics, right? Again, same thing, look for the ways that he's already doing them and appreciate them out loud. Let's say you want him to keep the house a little tidier. So even if you just notice that he picked up a sock and put it in the laundry hamper, right? And if really ultimately you wanted him to pick up the whole room, appreciate him for picking up the sock. Hey, I noticed you picked up the sock. Thank you. And you might even reinforce that a little bit more with you're tidy, I like, right? So when you're doing this, it's helping him to see himself in a new light. It helps him think of himself as someone who is tidy, who is responsible, who is affectionate, right? And that literally changes kind of his identity, his self-concept, right? He starts to see himself as someone who does those things, who does pick up the socks, who does sneak up behind his wife and give her a hug, right? And that's so much more likely to get him actually doing more of those things than any other approach. And it's also teaching him what you like, right? By pointing these things out, he starts to get, oh, she likes this. And of course, because deep down he wants to please you, he's going to be encouraged to do more of those things or be more of that affectionate or whatever kind of partner that you want. So one of my clients, for example, she used this kind of approach of reflecting and reinforcing what she liked in her partner, what she wanted more of, to really encourage her partner to not let himself get so discouraged and stop doing the projects that he really liked doing. She admired him for his motivation, right? She loved his motivated attitude around his projects and things he cared about. But he was going through a phase where he was feeling discouraged and he wasn't really doing his things. So what she did was take every opportunity to tell him how proud of him she was, that he wasn't just letting the setbacks totally stop him from pursuing what he cared about, right? If he spent a little time working on his project, she'd be like, like reinforce that, be like, yeah, look, you're continuing to do it even when it feels hard, right? I appreciate that about you. I love that about you, right? Get the idea? And what happened was that lo and behold, he stopped kind of reveling in the discouragement and felt empowered to stick with it, right? To get motivated, to keep getting back up there, even when he was running into little setbacks. And that gave her even more reasons to feel ever more proud of him, right? Beautiful, positive snowball effect, right? And this is how it works. It really works. And it will help you to love this person that you are, right? Because you're being appreciative and you're being how you'd want him to be with you, right? And it will help you love the person you've chosen to spend your life with, him, right? It will help you love him more and more over the years. What a gift, right? To you and to him, to the relationship. So the last little thing I want to mention is that this could be hard. This can feel uncomfortable, right? Appreciating, saying what you love, reflecting that goodness in him, the rightness in him. It feels like an intimate offering. It can feel vulnerable, right? And it's natural to feel timid about this or awkward about this. But don't let that stop you. Remind yourself that moving through a bit of this discomfort to reap the big rewards of a loving marriage that gets better over time, that's a small price to pay for big rewards. Yeah, like a little bit of discomfort. I like to call this trading short-term discomfort for long-term comfort, right? And it's really what we need to do when we're making any big healthy improvement in our lives and our marriages. Right? It's a small cost, that little bit of discomfort, for a huge gain. So let yourself, it's okay to feel uncomfortable doing it. It truly is. It doesn't mean anything's going wrong. It really just means you're not used to doing it. And as you do more of it, and as you start to see how good it feels to you, and how over time it starts to invite more of what you want from your partner, it's going to be so much easier and more like just fun to do, right? It's going to feel good to do. But if it is really hard, do make sure you've listened to the last 2 episodes. They really do set you up for being able to do this more easily, and spend more time doing those steps first, if that feels like the right way, like the baby steps that you need right now, right? Or you can, of course, you can always reach out to me to talk about one-on-one coaching with me. Like our fear and vulnerability, like they can get in our way so easily in our lives. It's what I call negative emotion aversion. And it's a real thing, especially for highly sensitive people. It can easily stop us from creating the loving, connected marriages that we really want with our partner, right? And I never want that to happen to you. So if you're like, yeah, this is too hard, like the negative emotion, the fear, the vulnerability, all of that stops you like regularly, then absolutely feel free to reach out to me for help. I'm here for you. I want to leave you with an invitation. If you missed it last time, I want to invite you to start to be able to implement what I've been sharing lately and so much more that will quickly start to create so much more closeness in your marriage. So come join the Closer to Your Husband in 7-Day Challenge. It's totally free and it starts in a couple weeks on April 5th. Maybe that's a week or so from now. Last year, I ran this same challenge and participants shared so many amazing things. Here are a couple things that they said. One participant said, I feel us getting closer and closer. I love him. I'd simply forgotten. That's powerful, right? Another person said, I've felt so much closer to my husband and more respected after doing just the first few challenges. Like that was just a few days she started to feel that way. That's big. Right? And other people reported having more affectionate touch and more snuggles, more feeling like they're just like, in this life together, feeling more romance again, and a lot more hope about their future as a couple. So by participating, you're going to be really starting to lay some of the foundation to have a love with your husband that does just grow deeper over time. So join us. You'll start feeling closer right away. To hop in to be part of the challenge, you can go to my website. It's lifeisworthloving.com/closer in 7 days, all spelled out. And you can hop on there. Or, of course, I'm going to put the link in the show notes. You can just go there, click it, and you'll be sent right over to the page with all the details. And you can hop right in. And I'll be so happy to join you and support you to feel closer to your husband. All right. Until then, be oh so well.